Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Monday evening nature series talk. Today, the talk is going to be focusing on the world of insects. The world of insects is fascinating. They have amazing life histories. A lot of them are unknown, but the greatest difficulty in getting to really like insects is just the daunting amount of variety that there is. So to simplify things a little bit, we've all put together a talk for you. Shantanu is going to do a small introductory presentation with few quizzes, and then there's going to be a expert question answer session with Dr. P.R. Shashank and Shantanu giving out the answers for all your questions. So before we start out, before I introduce my speakers for today, 4 things. Can you guys hear the audio is good?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Shantanu, I can hear you.
And can people hear me?
The other 3 things that I want to say before we start off is please leave your email and name in the chat box if you want to receive certificates for today's seminar. Also, feel free to use the chat box for any questions you might have. I will be moderating them during the course of the presentation and jotting down so we can ask them to both our speakers. Also, there's a quiz for the day sponsored by Carl Zeiss, an opportunity to win exciting prizes, right? So stay tuned. Without further ado, our speaker for today, let me start with the guest speaker. The guest speaker is Dr. P.R. Shashank. He works with IARI and is a renowned entomologist, and he's here to help us find some answers for some difficult questions. And the presenter for today is a very dear friend of mine, Shantanu, an avid traveler who loves the micro world. He is a great photographer and mentor and guide to a lot of budding students. He's helped out a lot of kids in finding the world of insects and actually going about loving them. So not to be chanced out of our opportunity, we have talked him into giving us this presentation too. So over to you, Shantanu. Have good fun.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Sohail. I hope the juice is worth the squeeze. There's a lot of things told about me. And welcome everybody. Welcome to the small session about insects. The session is small, but the subject insects is the largest and the most diverse group of organisms on earth. Wherever you look, you see insects. Even when we are watching this program, if you look in the corners or maybe behind your desk, you might find a couple of insects. They're all around us. They're different colors, shapes, sizes, but we know so little about them. In fact, the scientific world has described something around 20% of the total number of insects. So only 20% is described and 80% is not even described. So tomorrow the insect that you see might be something that has not been described by science at all. So, so that is what kind of drew me into this world. They were very interesting creatures. So if you see in this slide that is in front of you, this is the whole world of insects. Obviously, this Lepidoptera is a VIP, where you have the moths, the butterflies, and those. The Diptera is what you know better because that incorporates this order that incorporates flies and mosquitoes. And Coleoptera, you see, this is like 38% of the total insect world. Coleoptera are actually what you call bugs. They are the true bugs. The rest are not bugs, but these are bugs. Why are they bugs? What is the difference between this and the others? We'll come to that later. But this is just to give you a small idea of the diversity of the insects, right? Moving on to the next slide. In this presentation, what we talk about is what are insects? How do we define insects? If we start growing 6 legs, and do we become insects? Then the second point we discuss is how insects develop. That's from the egg to the insect. How do they develop? The third point we discuss the common insect orders for the insect that we see around. Fourth, we discuss insect senses, and the fifth, and to me a very important indicator, is the decline of insects that we see around us. So, what are insects? All insects have these two things that are marked in red: 3 differentiated body parts and 3 pairs of jointed legs. Can anybody tell me what are the 3 differentiated body parts called? Sohail, do you have any answers? Anyway, the 3 differentiated body parts
Somebody
are
said
head,
thorax, head.
and the third?
Abdomen.
Abdomen.
Correct. Exactly. So what we see, this is a representative insect, right, in front of us. So this is the head, this place is the thorax, and this you see is the abdomen. So 3 differentiated body parts and jointed legs or arthropods. Jointed legs is like us, limbs like us, which have got one or two more than one joints in between. So you see a joint here, a joint there. So these two are necessarily there in insects, plus antennae. Antennae is found in almost all adults. Even the nymphs or larvae, they have antennae, but sometimes they might be suppressed, right? And the skeleton of insects, unlike us, is an exoskeleton. It is not inside their body, they're outside their body, right? So these are the features that make up an insect. 3 differentiated body parts, 3 pair of jointed legs, antenna probably, and exoskeleton, right? So what do you think? This is a caterpillar. Is this an insect based on what we have discussed up till now? Can anybody tell me, is this an insect?
Larval stage, yes, somebody just said.
Yes, larval stage, but apparently it does not fit in the description, right? I do not find 3 differentiated body parts straight off, and I don't find 3 pairs of jointed legs. What I find are so many legs out here. Now, these are not all legs, very interestingly. This has also got 3 pairs of body parts: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Now you see there's a difference between these legs and these legs. These legs are prolegs or pseudo legs. These are not exactly legs, while these are jointed legs or arthropods. So there's 3 pairs of jointed legs, 4 pairs of abdominal legs, and 1 pair of anal leg. So this larva is an insect. This whatever I said. So here it is clear. You can see out here in the parts of a caterpillar, we have a head, thorax, abdomen. You have true legs, abdominal legs, and prolegs, anal process. This is for a butterfly. However, when you talk about moths, it's like the same things are there, excepting abdominal prolegs, which are like, this is the head, this is the thorax and the thoracic legs folded out here, and these are the anal legs out here. There is no legs in the abdomen for the caterpillar of a moth. Now it's a very interesting thing. This is metamorphosis. What is metamorphosis? Can anybody tell me what does metamorphosis mean? Sohail, can you?
Is to change. Somebody's answered.
Correct. Morphose and meta is basically change of shape. So whatever shape they are born in, that shape changes more than once to become adults. We do not metamorphize. Whatever shape we are born in, that shape we just go on, the shape grows on growing, and we grow and become adults. Insects mostly metamorphize. We'll start from the right. this is a hollow metabolism or a complete metamorphosis, where after the egg there are 4 stages: larva, then you have pupa, and then you have an adult. Right? This is a complete metamorphosis. Then you have incomplete metamorphosis when there one step is skipped. This pupa step is skipped. That happens for dragonflies mostly, where after the egg there are nymphs, and after the nymphs, when they start growing, and then they start growing their wings and all and become adults. So one step is skipped. So it's an incomplete metamorphosis. However, for one or a very small number of insects, they are ametabolous or there is no metamorphosis. You would know that insect because they eat up your books as a silverfish. Whatever shape they are born with, they just keep on growing. But there are very few. So mostly insects either they metamorphize completely or incompletely, but they metamorphize. Right? Interesting that how they can change from one to the second step, and second to the third step, and third to the fourth step. So I want to have a couple of answers based on our discussion up till now about what stuff is insect or not an insect. So number one you see in front of you. Is this an insect?
Sheila Shabra is saying yes. Supraja is saying yes.
Yes,
Rituparna is saying yes.
Butterfly is an insect. Very correct. How about this?
Sheila is saying no again. Supraja is saying no. Geeta is saying no. Kanan is saying no.
Correct. Because it's AZ has got more than 6 legs and all of them are real legs. Number 2 is that the head and the thorax for arachnids is fused. So there are 2 body parts actually, two parts of the body, not 3. Guess what this is?
Rituparna said 2 number no.
No, 2 is not an insect. Very correct.
Yes.
Guess what this is? Number 3.
Third one, it's stick insect, Supraja said.
Yes, it's a stick insect. I mean, look at the camouflage. This one has lost a leg. But if you really look at the camouflage, there are 2 legs here, 2 here, and 2 here. This leg is lost. And it looks like a stick. It has got a head, a thorax up till here, and the rest part of his body is the abdomen. How about this?
This is interesting.
This is very interesting.
I hope people get this one. Nobody's answering till now. Yes, Sheila said finally. Rituparna also says yes. Can anybody guess which insect this is? Abhishek Gulshan said mealybug. Supraja says trilobite insect.
Sohail, I think Shan is logged off for some reason.
His screen is off.
He's not even in the list anymore. Batti must have gone, as usual.
Yeah, nowadays there's a lot of pressure on everybody's internet. And that has made Zoom very unreliable. You know, every webinar, mine also, this has been happening. Sorry for the inconvenience, people. I think Shantanu will join in just a few moments.
He's joining now.
Is he back?
Yes. Unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, Shantanu. So happy to see you.
What happened? I was thrown out of the meeting room.
Yeah. Zoom has been acting up. Don't worry about it.
I'll try to get my
People
screen
are
on
waiting for
back.
the answer though.
Yeah, I'm getting my screen back. I'm trying to share my
Okay.
screen now.
That was quite a cliffhanger.
uh, is my screen viewable now? Is my screen seen?
Yes, I can see
Can
your
you guys see
screen.
my screen? Everybody
Yes.
can? Yeah, okay, fine.
Yes.
So we were talking about number 4. Is this an insect or not?
Most people said it's an insect. It's just they're not able to guess which one.
Yeah, okay, fine. It is a wood lice. And Sohail, would you like to say more about wood lice?
Oh, you're putting me on a spot, but woodlice is a very important insect. Actually, it's one of the insects that are indicating of a primary growth forest, and we all know that primary growth forest in India and all over the world are disappearing. So, quite an important insect to know. I would feel. Shantanu, is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. This insect is one of the very threatened insects in India just because it stays on primary growth forest trees. What you're seeing right now, number 4, is technically not an insect even. It's an exoskeleton of a wood lice. The wood lice has molted and gone away. This is just an exoskeleton. However, I kept it here just to tell you that things like this that thrive on primary growth forests are disappearing from our land. So wood lice is something I would like you guys to keep your eye out. I mean, eyes open when you're in the jungle, because that indicates a very healthy primary growth forest. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, is this an insect?
Vipul Gupta said yes, but I don't know if it was for the last one or not. So
Vipul Gupta ji, number 5 is an insect.
Ritu Purna is saying 5, no. No, Millipede by Sheila. No.
Yes,
A lot. So Abhishek Gulshan says no.
very yeah, correct, because the number of legs are much more than 6. Does not have 3 separate body areas. It's got so many separated different body parts, right? What about this? Anybody, first and foremost, can anybody guess what this is? And number 2 is tell me if it is insect or not.
Glowworm,
Something which is
somebody said firefly larva, firefly
firefly
insect.
lava is correct. Glowworm is not. This is a firefly lava. It looks like a dinosaur. It has got its own scaly pattern and all that stuff. And yes, it is an insect. I found this in Bhimtal. This was a firefly lava was once upon a time very common, But these days you don't even get to see fireflies. Maybe in Asola you get to see a couple.
Yeah.
And what about the last one, number 7? Very easy. Number 7 is an insect, yes. And this insect represents that largest family of insects that I was talking about, the true bug. It's a jewel bug. Moving on to the next slide. Are there any questions up till now? Are there any questions up till what you have discussed up till now? Any questions that you'd like to ask?
I think we can move on if there are no questions.
Okay. So now is what we when you discussed about some common insects and their orders. The first slide that we talk about were the orders of the insects. Now we'll try and find out which common insects, a couple of common insects that fall into a couple of orders, right? The first order is Hemiptera. Those insects have got sucking mouth parts. The sucking includes liquids and some semi-liquid solid kind of a thing like sap, plant sap and everything. Bed bugs, aphids, plant hoppers, mealybugs, cicada, they all fall under the family of the order of Hemiptera. These are some examples of Hemiptera. You must have seen this in your garden. And this too, mealybugs, aphids, and plant hoppers. Second order we talk about the dipteras, the things that we think. Hello? You said something?
Yeah, I got a message saying there is no voice coming. Can everybody hear? Because I can
Can
hear you.
everybody hear me? You got to connect to voice.
Yes, I think everybody can hear. Shantanu, at this disruption, sorry for the disruption, there was a question right after we moved on. Is endangered.
Why are?
Are
I cannot hear you so well.
Are fireflies endangered?
Fireflies have not yet been declared as endangered or such. There are places where there are so many fireflies. However, it is evident that the number of fireflies that you see are not seen these days. There are two reasons for that. One is that you do not see absolute darkness in the city. So even if there are fireflies, you won't be able to see them. And the numbers have definitely gone down. So they are there in the jungles, they are there in the mountains, but in the city, yes, like all other insects, they're coming down. We will talk about decline of insects in a little while.
Yeah, it is a good place to say that most of these, Shantanu, it's a good place to say that most of the insects are data deficient and not much studies have been done on it. So we don't even know if they're endangered or not. All these
We do not have exact data for insects. Mainly because there are so many of them and there are some other reasons also. We'll come to that slide. Coming back to the orders of the insects, mosquitoes and fly are in the same order of Diptera. Now, the interesting thing about Diptera is that among the 4 wings, 2 wings are operative and 2 wings become balancing organs. Right? They are balancing organs called halteres, which are small modified wings. And they use, they consume liquids only. Mosquitoes, they consume liquids. And flies, they also do the same thing. Let's talk about this So these are the examples, mosquitoes and flies. However, here is why I try to show you halteres and wings. That is modified wings. Everybody can see this picture, right? So can you see this picture?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So these are wings, right? Evidently. Now you see these small organs out here. These are modified wings. These are what are called halteres, and these organs, the angles they place it, that aids in flying. Remember, I mean, it's like it's flying an airplane kind of a thing. These help the balance of the whole body of this insect. So Diptera, by definition, has got wings and got halteres. Then we got Hymenoptera, where it's membranous wings, and the forewing and hindwing is connected with hook. It has got chewing mouthparts and an ovipositor. This ovipositor can also be probably modified and it has a sting at times. Wasps, bees, and ants, they are all fall under Hymenoptera. Wasps, bees, and ants are of the same family. All of these are of the same family. So these are one of the very common insects, but they are of the same family, Hymenoptera. Now this is the largest family of insects that we have discussed, Coleoptera. So the front pair of wings are hardened into wing cases. So if you remember, if you know and remember a ladybug flying, you remember that it first removes that front pair of things and then 2 wings come out and then start flying. So that happens to all bugs. All true bugs have got hardened wing cases, and then underneath that wing cases are the wings which are hidden. So these are all examples of Coleoptera. One thing that you notice in Coleoptera is that since they've got hardened wing cases, the externally, you don't see the wings. You see the stuff, you see, these are the wing cases. You see the dimples out here. This is not a wing. But when it needs to fly, it will fly. Similarly with jewel bugs, this is a wing case. Once it, when these are moved, the wings are below that. So these are examples of Coleoptera. These are some fun facts or astonishing facts about insects, most of which I never knew before I got into insects. Ladybird is the biggest help to gardeners. It eats more than 5,000 insects from its larval stage to adult stage, and mostly the insects are aphids. So ladybugs are aphid killers, and they're great pest controllers. Dung beetle and ants, they are weightlifters. Dung beetle is 1141 times, and it's explained that it's like a human pulling 6 double-decker buses. Talking about fireflies, somebody is mentioning fireflies. Fireflies is something very interesting. You count 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you see one flash in that count, then that firefly is a male. And if you see two flashes in that count, that firefly is a female. It's an interesting thing to observe about fireflies. Uh, and the last point is very interesting. A species of ants, that is diversity of ants itself, ants being a very small taxa, is almost the same as the total species of birds in this world. So you can understand the volume of insects that we're talking about. And we are just talking about couple 5 orders right now, right? There are 29 to 32 orders of insects, with the largest orders being Coleoptera. Now we're going to talk about insect senses. Insects have brains, very small brains, but they do have brains. But have you ever wondered what those brains can do? What can the insect sense? A couple of senses, let's talk about and find out how deep the insects can sense things. Communication among insects. Insects, there are 4 methods of communication of insects. One is tactile, the first mention. It is by touch. Like when you see 2 ants, they come meet each other, they touch the antenna, then go away. That's a tactile method of communication, the antennas being sensors. Then chemicals like pheromones that are left in the air. So if there's distress, there's a mating calls, the males leave pheromones. And even larvae, when they communicate with each other, they do it by pheromones only. I have a clutch of 20 caterpillars that's just born last night, and they are moving about as a clutch in total. So how they're communicating to each other is by pheromones only. The third way of communication is by acoustics or sound, like cicadas. Like cicada sounds, everybody knows about it, and that's how they communicate with each other. Fourth is by sight. Now, butterfly mating part is confusing because I had said that they do it by pheromones. Now you also know that it's male butterfly which releases the pheromones, right? But then how does a male butterfly find out the female butterfly? Female butterflies don't release pheromones. They don't even have that pheromone sac. Male butterflies find out female butterflies by visual cues. They look at a butterfly and then they find out that no, it's a female. So these are the 4 methods in which insects communicate with each other. Insect vision, I just said about male butterflies, female butterflies. The insects have 2 types of eyes, simple eyes and compound eyes. Like if you look at this picture, this is a compound eyes, where there's multiple small eyes taken together, and these are simple eyes. Anybody remember that there was a movie on ants that came up some time back, and it showed an ant looking out to the world in compound eyes like a kaleidoscope, and every eye had a separate, the same vision repeated over and over and over again. Now that is not the way insects see. The sensors take in the sights, the visions in different ways, but the brain, it is processed into one combined image. Like we take in the vision through our left eye and right eye, and it's processed into our brain into one combined image, which is stereoscopic. Similarly, insects process it in their own way. So compound eyes do not behave like a kaleidoscope. Now, you know about monochromes, right? Single color. Human beings are trichromatic. We see 3 colors: red, green, and black, and a combination of RGB, right? The only insect that sees 3 colors is a bee, but like all insects cannot see red. We'll come to that. Every insect can see more than humans. They got multiple, right? Going right up to dragonflies. A couple of species have got 16 rod cells, 16 receptors. Can you understand the depth of colors? They extend to the ultraviolet spectrum. But the lower end of the spectrum, the red, they cannot see. But they go up to the ultraviolet. They can see much more than what we can see and process that. into food, into enemy, into mating. That's what sight does for insects. Now let's talk about some cutting edge technology for insects, where insects are used by humans. These are very interesting stuff that I read some time back. This I read in Nat Geo. You know, when termites build their nest, if you analyze the nest, you can find out the constituent of the ground on which the nest is being built. So if there is a strain of minerals, that can be found out by analyzing the constituent of the termite nest. More so, it can be analyzed by looking at the termite itself under a spectroscope. If you look at the picture on the left, you see that under a spectroscope, this much of zinc is found in the stomach of a termite. So you can say that this is near a zinc, strain. Maximum amount of money is spent while digging to find out where the strain is at the level nearest to the ground, so that the least amount of digging can take place for gold, for minerals and everything. By using these biosensors, by using these insects, human beings can reduce that cost like anything. There's huge amount of research going on into this, but this is just to tell you that a simple insect like termite can help us save crores of money this way. Now, this is another interesting thing. This is something called explosive sniffing bees. Now,
Shantanu,
yep.
Sorry to disturb you, but
Tell me.
the screen is moving very slowly. So
Okay.
when you move on to the next screen, just pause for a little bit before you start talking about it, because it comes after some time. Like right now also I can see some bits of it. It's not complete.
Is this with everybody?
But, there were a few questions that we could take at this point of time. One was the fact about fireflies, and also you can decline do you talk about the decline of fireflies when you're at it?
I did. I addressed that query, right?
Somebody's asking you to repeat the fact about fireflies.
Okay, we'll do that. Is Shashank online, by the way?
Yes, I can see him.
Dr. Shashank is there?
Yeah, I'm online.
Dr. Shashank, would you like to say something about decline of fireflies in Delhi or generally in India?
Shall we take all the questions later? Finish up your presentation. That will be better, I think.
Sure, we can see the screen now. Shantanu, you can move on. Just pause a little bit when you shift screens.
We will take questions in the last part, I think. That will be great.
Okay, great. So we are talking about explosive sniffing bees. Now, bees, whenever you hold up sugar water, glucose water to bees, they stick out their proboscis for the sugar water. So that is an instinct for the bees. Now, if you have a target substance, say drugs or say explosives, which you mix with the sugar water and present that compound to the bees, it will hold out a proboscis. Initially, very not with full confidence, kind of a thing. But over a couple of generations, they can be trained to stick out the proboscis when the target substance is presented in front of them. In India, this research is going on. This is on explosive sniffing bees, where explosive traces are mixed with the glucose water, and bees are being trained to identify that, so that tomorrow they can act as like sniffer dogs. That is something very interesting, and the DRDO is doing a lot of research on this, combined with a lot of entomologists, and maybe in near future we will see them applied on a large and mass scale. But that is also the second way biosensor is helpful for humans. We also have biological controls using insects. We'll talk about two insects right now, ladybug and Parthenium beetle. So as I was telling you, Ladybugs take care of a lot of acids and thrips in the garden. Ladybugs, once they are in the garden, aphids will not be there. The larvae of the ladybug, this is a ladybug larvae, by the way. I don't know how many of you have seen ladybug larvae. It's an interesting looking creature. That goes up to right like this. So ladybug larvae, they eat a maximum amount of aphids, and the adult ladybugs also help out. So both this one as well as the blue ladybug, they all eat aphids. They are used by farmers, and even if you have a garden or a place where there are a lot of aphids, you can get hold of the ladybugs and leave them there. The aphids will go. Now this is a very targeted insect. It's a Parthenium beetle. This is from Mexico. It's imported to India to target the Parthenium grass that grows here, which is a poisonous grass. Even the pollen and whatever is sniff out of it can cause bodily discomfort to human beings. And so this beetle specifically targets Parthenium. A lot of them I find in and around Delhi. And if you see this beetle, you can understand that they have been imported from Mexico and left here to take care of Parthenium weed. Okay, now we come to the decline of insects. There is
Shantanu, the screen hasn't changed, so
we'll hold.
maybe you can
We
tell
will
them
change.
about the invasiveness of Congress grass, as it's called locally.
Yeah, Congress once upon a time was the biggest party all over India, found in every nooks and corners. So Parthenium, which basically came in with wheat, got spread all over India. Now they've taken up. Places all over India. I have seen butterflies, basking on Parthenium. Now, Mr. Sanjay Sondhi, he's got a very interesting theory to it. He said that butterflies bask on Parthenium because no animal like cows or cattle, they graze on Parthenium. So butterflies are not disturbed when they bask on Parthenium. So when they have seen that this Parthenium is one weed which is not being disturbed by anybody, they have instinctively developed that stuff that if you go and bask on Parthenium, nothing is going to disturb you. It's a very interesting thing. Anyway, it must be visible now in decline of insects.
Now that you say, Shantanu, I also have seen a lot of these butterflies basking on, especially the smaller ones.
Yeah,
on
the
Parthenium.
smaller ones and the mountain ones, I've seen a lot of them. So I was talking to Sanjay the other day. So he told me that he's got this concept, which I kind of agreed to. If you remember, so we were driving down somewhere in the mountains and we photographed a couple of butterflies in Parthenium only.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, we talk about decline of insects. You remember when we were kids, you used to put off the lights so that from one room to another, the insects used to go. So we used to put on the lights on one room, shut off the lights of other rooms. So there were so many insects on the wall. And the lizards, they used to grow real fat. Nowadays, even during Diwali time, very few insects are there. I, for one, was like,
Shantanu, sorry to disturb you again. Please, can you switch the slides or do something up and down? We can't see this slide.
Maybe he can reshare his screen.
nothing is seen.
Stop and reshare again.
This is seen.
Yeah, stay on decline. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on decline.
Now there's
Is it
half
visible
of
now?
decline in biopesticide.
Good.
What should I do? Should I reshare?
Maybe you can shut down and share it again. The screen.
Yeah, I can see decline of insects now. Oh, you shut down.
You can see, right? No.
Yes.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are talking about less insects. We feel that there are less insects because we do not see the amount of insects in the room. Even during a lockdown period, when I am like kind of confined inside, I try and shoot, but I really cannot see those insects inside to shoot. Once in a while, a couple of species maybe here and there. The second pointer which we see for when we talk about decline is previously when we used to drive down the roads, Every 100 to 150 kilometers, we had to stop the car and wash the windshield. There were like so many bugs on the windshield, so many insects. Actually, there is a study in the US. In that study, they have based the study on the number of dead insects on windshield to find out the variety of insects on a certain way. Like if you do 100 kilometers, what are the variety of insects that are there? They have based the study on dead insects on the windshield. However, today, if you like going down the road, you will find that there's very little amount of insects on your windshield. And you know really for a fact that the number of insects have come down. And generally, insects are less visible. You don't see insects. You're walking down the road. If you're looking at plants on the road, on the side of the road, you see very little insects these days. The reason is mostly us. We have done a lot of things to this world. We have used pesticides, insecticides, and everything to make this world insect free. One reason being that, so that the number of insects have gone down. But by what percent it has gone down, how it has gone down, we do not know. Because if you look here, that the FBI, the Flora of British India, published in the early 20th century, is the only comprehensive document on Indian insects till date. There are scientists who are doing a lot of work out there, but the quantification of insects is such a huge topic that it is not being done, at least for India. No, we do not really have a quantification of insects. Going on to the next screen. Is my next screen visible?
No.
Is it still on the previous screen?
It's
There's half and half. Yeah, now it's there.
Okay. So I say what you cannot quantify, you cannot measure. I can tell you insect number is going down. I can give you subjective reasons. I don't see insects, no insects on the windscreen, no insects on the wall, no insects generally. But science does not really deal with subjective things. It deals with objective. If previously it was 100, now it is 60 or 40 or 30. Because unless we get that, we cannot go ahead with it. If you cannot quantify it, we cannot have a conservation plan. So there is no conservation plan for insects. No real study of the total numbers of the variety of insects. The distribution, we do not know nothing about. There are a couple of places which have got repository for insects. For example, Dr. Shashank's repository at Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Pusa, has got a huge amount of insects in this repository. But this is like once in a while, a couple of places that have it, not in the way or the numbers that needs to be there. Because even for IARI, they deal basically with pests or crop pests, not with all insects. But if you have to control or even arrest the decline of insects, we need to quantify them. The probable reasons for decline. I have shifted onto my next screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. The probable reasons for decline, and these are like probable reasons since we do not really know what are the actual reasons. One is a habitat change. Like everything around us, like all organisms around us, we have managed to change the habitat for insects. There's pollution, there's urbanization, everything taken together, insects have come down. Second, this is important. This is a change in plant profiles. Now we like lovely flowers. Most of the plants in the manicured gardens are non-native, they're exotic. Like some from South of America, some from Europe, some from North America. And we really do not go in for native plantation. So if there are no native plants, there is no larval host plant for the insects, the native insects. They do not have a place to lay eggs. Their caterpillars don't have anything to eat. So if they change the plant profile altogether from native to non-native or exotic, the number of insects will automatically come down because that will hit the population like anything. Then there are climate change for everything. The summers are hotter. The winters are colder. There's too much of rain. Insects cannot take in this amount of variation of temperature and monsoon and everything. So that is one reason for decline. This is also another thing. Electric fields due to overhead HT wires, high tension wires. Insects, there's a study. There's a study which says that insects can find out the poles, North Pole and the South Pole, by the amount of iron oxide inside their head, aligning with the geographical North and South Poles. So this aligning of the iron oxide, that is disturbed due to overhead high tension wires. The more this causes a huge magnetic field, the HT wires. You hear that buzz. That's a static in the atmosphere and the magnetic field. That hurts insects' instinct to fly or to reach the right direction. And hence, they tend to avoid places with electrical fields. And now, but everything has got electrical fields these days. And this is also a probable reason for decline of insects. Pesticides and herbicides we use like left, right, and center. If there's anything on the plant, the mali comes and sprays something or the other. Pesticides and herbicides, pesticide itself is also called insecticide, where there's a broad spectrum kind of a thing that hits every insect. And the usage of pesticides and herbicides bring down the number of insects. Okay. Is the screen visible?
No, it hasn't come as of now.
It's a question of the day screen. Is it visible? Please let me know when it is visible.
At this point of time, there are a few questions related to what was said. There was a question on how do butterflies escape crab spiders on Parthenium grass?
Because crab spiders do not sit on Parthenium grass. Crab spiders themselves, they are camouflaged insects. They try to be on places where there are white flowers, yellow flowers, or blue flowers. These are mostly the colors of crab spiders. Parthenium does not sustain much of life form out there. So hence, there are no predators out there, mostly.
Okay, there's another interesting question. Would light pollution be a threat? And while you're answering this, would you mind going back and forward on the PPT, the slide also, maybe it'll change. We are at, it's moving too fast. Yeah, but would light pollution be a threat to insects?
I would keep this question for Dr. Shashank in the latest.
Yeah, I will answer. Yeah, I will answer.
Yeah, Shashank, you'll be a good person to enlighten us on how light.
So just note down, Kadana, just to note this one down. This will be a very good, very interesting question.
Yeah, I will. I can answer now itself because it is taking time. Okay.
Okay, sure. Please do it.
Yeah. See, first of all, as Sean mentioned, there are so many reasons for insect decline. From last 7 to 8 months, many institutes, it may be Smithsonian Institute, Florida Natural History Museum, or even in India, especially Yash Sondhi, Sanjay's son, he is also started working on light pollution. Okay, so it's becoming an important issue globally, especially after the papers came out from Germany and a few part of Europe on insect declines. People have started to understand the impact of light pollution on insects, and it is very important factor, especially in India. We need to generate a lot of data to convince people the light pollution is really harming us. Okay, scientifically speaking, at this point of time, India is really threatened by light pollution, because we still have not, even though we are encouraging LED lights and all, but still we are, there's a way ahead. We have to shift into LEDs because LEDs are somewhat safer compared to other source of lights, but the intensity of LED also matters. Okay, so there is a lot of research has to be done, but people from last 1 year, people have started generating a lot of data on light pollution. Okay, it is an important threat to insect decline.
But doctor, what exactly is light pollution?
See, I think most of you have taken flight during nights.
Yep.
Most of you, I presume everybody love flying during evening hours, and if you see Delhi, you see a cloud of light. Okay,
Yeah,
it's a different
absolutely.
world out there from the natural light. Okay, so there are different types of light pollution. Okay, so especially the source of light is very important. If you say it's really polluting, and untargeted insects, if I am using a light source for what do you call, for just monitoring insect, okay, and switching off after that, and all the insects will be going out. But most of the street lights, like 20, almost like 8 to 9 hours, they will be on. Okay, and it will disorient the behavior of insects. So insects just, they come out there and they don't know what to do. Okay, and they just fool themselves first of all, and after some time the important behavioral aspects will change. Okay, there are some insects which only live for 1 day or 2 day, and that will be a main mating season for them. Okay, once they will attracted to light, if they don't go from that source, they can't even find the host. Okay, there are so many scientific reasons are there, especially the light source which attracts insects. Okay, especially street light, and most of you, I presume, you know that UV is very much attracted to, the range of UV is very much attracted to insects. Okay, but there is very what we call large bandwidth. There are some insects which are attracted to even black lights. Okay, which is a higher wavelength light. Okay, so those
Shashank,
insects,
there's a related question by
yeah,
a participant. They're asking, why are insects actually attracted to light?
yeah, actually this already, yeah, I will tell. There are so many reasons.
Sure.
Okay,
Yes, please.
we have discussed so many times. The one logical reason which we find whenever I discuss this in even my classes, I discuss about this. So one logical reason in during nights, okay, especially this is only for nocturnal insect I'm talking. Okay, this is not about diurnal insects. Most of the diurnal insects, they don't get attracted to light. Okay, so nocturnal insects generally, they navigate by keeping moon as a constant source. Okay, you should have some navigation. If you want to go to Delhi, you should know that which direction Delhi is there. Okay, so
Absolutely.
yeah, so insects take moon as a navigator, so they keep moon as a source and they move towards. Okay, it may be of course there are a lot of chemical cues which influence their movement, and also there are so many things, but in perception, okay, they keep moon as a source. So when you switch on a bright light, any source of light, okay, they presume, because it is closer to this the insect, they presume this is a this may be a moon, so I have reached. So that's why when they reach the light source, they just rotate around that light source. Okay, they will be confused. They don't know where they have reached actually. Okay, this is one theory which is accepted in many of people, but there are so many theories. Okay, this is one general theory, the navigation system of insects, which is mainly depending on moon.
That kind of covers it. And there's a related question to this only.
Yeah,
Lots of people seem interested in lights and, as you said, lights and insects.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
during Diwali, lots of decline of insects. How do we avoid it? How can we avoid it?
Diwali, in terms of actually, scientifically speaking, if you go back to history, not history, the mythology of India. See, Diwali is celebrated to control insects. Okay, So if you are an entomologist, most of us, we understand, because Diwali comes during a stage of our life, especially in the month where insect population is huge. Okay. So during that time, especially when during mythological period, the insects were main threats, rather than now we are talking about conservation and all. Okay. So the bonfire is lighting a lamp kills lot of insects. Okay. Actually, Diwali started, one aspect of Diwali is that to kill insects. Okay.
Interesting.
So if you just read so many, there are so many articles, mythological entomology, why they have taken light source. Okay. So because during that period, if you see during Diwali period, the population of insects will be very huge. Okay. Nowadays, because of crackers, lot of pollution, see, a simple way of killing insect is a fogging. So fogging, any smoke you create, insect will just fall to earth. So when you're especially when you're using so many crackers, even human will fall to earth nowadays. Okay,
Correct.
so insects are nowhere. So that's the population, especially in Diwali time. That's why you see a lot of insects which are dying. Okay, mainly because of the pollutants which we have in crackers. Okay, that is with respect to cracker. I think
Shashank, going back to
yeah. Tell me.
Shashank, going back to
Sorry.
the insects getting attracted to lights, I've seen
Okay.
bees on light traps.
That is
Why
actually
would that
yeah.
be?
Shoail, actually the thing is we also get to see a lot of bees, especially when you keep a light trap at 5:30 to 6 o'clock. Okay, many bees they
Yeah,
have to
especially on your
there are,
campus.
yeah, definitely. So we have about 30 to 40 bee colonies. we are managing them. So especially a complete in a particular bee colony, all the bees the bees, especially the worker bees, they go out for nectaring or pollen collection. Some workers, they come back very late. Okay, maybe at 7:30, 8 o'clock. At 7:38, most of the colonies will be, especially in summers. If you keep a light trap, you will get a lot of bees also, because it's a generally sunset is very late, and the worker bees, they take a lot of time to come back to the hive. So during when they want to come back to home, during that time, if there is any light trap or any light source, okay, they just lose their track. Okay, they can't come back to hive, so they just get attracted to light. That's the one reason. Otherwise, if
Yeah,
you
the
switch on the
scouts and the
light,
worker bees.
yeah, especially worker bees, only worker bees comes out. Okay, so especially worker bees, they just they will lose their way back to home. Okay, that's why they come. Otherwise, those bees which are in colony, they will not come.
Moving on from this, Shashank, somebody just asked that what would the ethics of setting up a light trap be for moth studies or
Ethics,
insect studies at night?
yeah, there are
In
so
the sense,
many
what would you
ethical
have
issues.
to just take care of?
uh, Take care in terms of your safety, your insect safety. There are two issues always.
Oh, I guess insects first.
No, we first.
Yeah. So actually, my personal perception is, see, being an entomologist, people look at me at insect hunter. Okay. Being an agriculture entomologist. Okay, because we always recommend pesticides, we always recommend, but it's not true always. See, general monitoring, whenever we monitor any insects, for example, if you monitor butterflies and all, we just photograph is enough, because we have so many guides to understand or identify butterflies, but there are so many insects,
Exactly.
you have to collect it. Okay, so during collection, a lot of ethical issues come. So there are so many kids who visits our lab. They ask me one question: why you kill so many insects? Okay, so when I have developed my website, I wrote about one page why we collect insects. Okay, because to answer those kids. Okay, during light trap, especially if you are monitoring, don't call it as a light trap. Just call it as a light source. You are monitoring in a sheet, and after you are acquiring data, whatever you take photography, you just switch off the light. All insects will go back. Okay, so there is no problem in that. Okay, and it's not a light pollution also, because you are dispersing those insects after 1 or 2 hours of your trapping. However, if it is a collection, if you're using some trap, it should be for scientific reason. Don't just collect for the sake of fun.
Absolutely.
Okay. If it is scientific reason, you are really doing, you want to understand that species. Okay, and there are few people I have seen, you have representative data already, but they collect so many extra data. If it is a scientific project for monitoring a long-term species, it is required. Otherwise, there is no need for collecting one species daily.
Okay, Shashank, moving on. I think Shantanu's screen is up.
Yeah,
we can still take a few more questions at this point.
Okay, I
in
got
time.
a couple of slides. Let me finish it up and then we go to Q&A.
That will
Okay,
be
sure.
Okay.
All right, guys. Back to the presentation. We'll take your questions in a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah, this presentation, actually, we start off with a question only. It's a question of the day, which has been sponsored by Zeiss. I would request everybody to note down the place where you need to submit the answer. The answer to the question needs to be submitted to www.zeissbinocularsindia.com/contest. You can take a copy of the slide or make a screenshot of the slide, or we can share it in the chat box also if somebody can do that. www.zeissbinocularsindia.com/contest. The question of the day is this: is this visible?
Yes, it's visible.
The question of the day is, which insect has the maximum positive influence in the Indian economy? It would be great if you can write a couple of lines supporting your answer. So which insect has got the maximum positive influence in the Indian economy?
Ooh, I want to answer this one. I hope it's open for me also.
It's open for everybody. Please answer.
Okay. Sure.
This is a very interesting question suggested by Dr. Shashank only, but I found it a very interesting question.
Yeah, I do too. It's a good question.
Anyways, coming to almost the end of the slides. After this, there will be a summing up and question and answer session by Dr. Shashank. And before that, before I end up my slide, I want to thank a couple of people. Dr. P.R. Shashank. So, well, obviously, you are always there, and you are one person that I can always, count on. Nikhil from Delhi Bird Foundation for giving us a platform so that we not only ask the insects a platform, so somebody can talk about them. And Mr. Nitin Chandra for a couple of very beautiful photographs that he has submitted. That would be my slide. End of my presentation. Now, Sohail, let's have a summation by Dr. Shashank and then we can have a Q&A.
Yeah, before that, I would like to say thank you, Shantanu. It's a very interesting presentation. Actually, some people have even mentioned that they would like to receive this presentation. So they've given their email ID. Maybe we can do that at a later time. Yeah. Now, Dr. Shashank, please, with the summation.
Thank you, sir.
The summation and the Q&A session.
I don't know how to say. Shan, really great. Yeah. Because being I think Shantanu messaged me like few times to see, being a amateur, he's really interested in understanding insects. I'm really thank him, and especially see in India nowadays, especially I thank lockdown, because generally I used to be very busy with my teaching, research, and especially with most of my work will be in lab, and in seasons it will be in field. Otherwise I don't meet many people because of lockdown. Sohail and Shan, I started meeting people in Delhi. So I'm staying in Delhi from 8 years now. I'm knowing people. Okay, and especially this presentation, I really thank Shan, because it's very important to educate people, especially childrens. I really like to teach childrens about insects because see, they don't have anything. There is no filter with them, so they will understand. They enjoy if you see, so the passion which they have about the natural world is really unique. Okay, and anyway, Sohail is always busy with teaching so many kids. Okay, and Shan, this will really it will at least trigger few people to think about not only butterflies and nowadays moths, but also there are so many insects around us. Okay, and especially I suggest you people simply use this iNaturalist, okay, biodiversityindia.com. So you take photographs near your home. That's enough. See, I know Delhi is so crowded, but you have a lot of insects. Okay, so insects also adopt with us. So you take whatever insects you see, because these small observations will add up to a larger data. So one of your question I will answer after this is having a lot of data deficits. Okay, so citizen science programs are becoming very interesting and important for many countries, especially nowadays. India, many people are getting educated, so you can see, I'm working in agriculture institute. I know nowadays even uneducated farmers, they know how to use an app. Okay, they will just take a photograph of a crop leaves, they will upload in the apps which we people developed. Okay, so because it's a necessity, people will learn. Okay, demonetization, everybody learned how to use ATM. Even a even a labor or even a small health worker, they started knowing how to use ATM. So it's all about how to use technology, and in future the citizen science programs will always help. And people like you, Shan, you people are really doing amazing work. Okay, and you and I have seen this Delhi Birds, you people are organizing amazing webinars. Okay, I really liked it.
Before you go on praising us too much,
No, Shoel, it's because no, it's really important, especially in Delhi. So I always compare. I'm from Karnataka. I always compare education of natural world is better in South compared to North India. I don't have any hesitation to tell that, but now it is picking up.
Absolutely.
Now it is picking up because of you people. That's very important. Okay, over to you, Shoel.
Shashank, this is actually a very good point you bring up about citizen science and how all insects are data deficient, and citizens can actually, we are at the cusp of a digital revolution in nature also. And I think all citizens can help in that. So just leading with this only, are there any references that people can use? You mentioned iNaturalist and Butterflies of India or Biodiversity Portal. Are there any other resources or other books that people can refer to just get starting out knowing about insects?
Yeah, there are so many museum websites you can use for at least understanding basic insects. Okay, yes. Especially I recommend. I'm a huge fan of Smithsonian Museum. Okay, so if you have good internet facility, go to virtual tour on Smithsonian Museum. It's a free. Okay, everybody I will recommend, go to virtual tour of Smithsonian Museum. Okay, so these are like great places. And if you type in Google about facts about insects, Smithsonian, there are so many what with citizen science booklets they have developed, small folders, PDF, and the characters which they have used are really helpful for the beginners. Okay, see, first, before knowing what exactly the species, you should understand what is the order and all. That is enough at the beginning. Okay, so those guides, even though it is developed by foreigners, but they are really beautiful, and they are useful.
Yeah, that's a good resource to know about. Somebody also mentioned the Big Little Book of 100 insects and butterflies
100 insect. That's
by DK
yeah.
publisher.
Yeah.
A topical question was there. This I would open this to both Shantanu and Shashank. Are any insects fatal to human beings? And can you talk
I
about the
know.
locust attack also?
Yeah. Yes. I think whoever asked that question, they may be asking about murder wasps. Okay, I presume.
Yeah,
But
that is the only thing big in the news now.
but please don't stop saying it's a murder wasp. Okay, it's a Asian hornet. Okay, it's a Asian hornet, and it's already there in India, so there is no need to worry.
No
And
need to panic.
of course, no. If 3 to 4 wasps they will bite, definitely it will be a fatal attack. But see, it's all about, if you are going to a field work, always you people take care. See, whenever we go to field, we understand the nature, which is good and which is bad. See, in India, especially this hornet, Asian hornet is distributed in Himalayas, especially Himachal Pradesh, and till I can say till Meghalaya. Okay, so especially northeast. Okay, they eat this larva, 1,000 per nest. Okay, it's an amazing business for them, and they have a. I just want to share this beautiful story because many people will be interested. It's very difficult to find this hornet nest because it's a huge hornet, and it will be about 2 to 3 centimeters. Okay, it's a big hornet. It's the world's biggest hornet, and what the tribes in Arunachal and especially these northeast people they do is they collect one hornet and they will tie that hornet with threads, small threads, bunch of threads. Okay, very light. When the hornet fly back to nest, they will track it.
Okay.
Okay, to find the nest, and after that they will collect that nest and they will sell. Okay, it's about 1,000 rupees per nest. It's a
Wow.
okay, but in US, because see, especially I don't know that most of the media people, they don't consult any scientific people. They just create a noise. Okay, in US there are only 1 or 2 nests which they have found and they have destroyed it. But recently, the one active nest, maybe it has attacked a few people, and there 1 or 2 people are dead. But it's very rare case. Okay, in India, so many years we are the first specimen which I have, because recently I have submitted a report on this to our council. Okay, so some minister has seen a video of this and he has asked us, what is the status of this in India? Okay, so in India we have a specimen from 1918. Okay, so that means from 100 years back, people have collected this hornet in India. So we are safe, and it's not so problematic. Of course, it is problematic for especially honeybees. See, it's a huge problem in apiculture, not for humans.
Okay.
So,
Somebody's asking
if I may
question.
add to that,
Definitely.
there's any insect can be fatal to human beings if you are allergic to it. If you're allergic to an insect and the insect bites you, you get into something called an allergic shock.
Definitely.
That allergic shock can put you in a coma from which you cannot come out. So you should be aware of what insects you're allergic to, because they inject proteins into you. If you're allergic to those proteins, I mean, it can be fatal to you.
Definitely.
And number 2 is any insect in numbers, biting insects or stinging insect in numbers. Suppose a whole nest of honeybees attack you. It is very difficult to come out of it. So the best way is to keep calm. Even if you're bitten, don't panic and start running up and down, jumping up and down, because then the insects feel threatened and they attack you even more.
Absolutely.
So there's a couple of things. And if you do not know about any insect, if you've got any doubts, do not approach it. Do not handle insects, and do not even go near the insects that have got bright coloration, specifically yellow and black. Yellow and black says, I got a sting and I got to use it. I will use it. Says yellow, black, red. Stay away from those insects. Do not handle it by any chance. Do not handle it.
Yeah, true. And don't disturb them, first of all.
Don't disturb them, yes. Do you, Shantanu, do you want to add something on the locust attack?
Yeah,
No,
locust
locust attack. Let him
locust. I
attack.
could. I am. Yeah. Sorry. I have not.
No, no, no,
I have
please,
not.
please.
I forgot that question. After after 2003, this is the this year is because locust generally comes in cycles. Okay, 10 years or 12 years cycles will be there. So there is a huge monitoring program throughout Southeast Asia. Okay, which is almost most of the countries, Iran, Pakistan, India. We have a wonderful setup for locust monitoring. Okay, nobody can question that. We have a wonderful monitoring. But this year is a huge because of many factors. Okay, and especially because of war in because the breeding. The locust breeding takes place in especially Iraq, Iran, in that places. Okay, so because of war and all, they could not take preliminary measures during breeding season. Okay, and so they have missed the 1 or 2 months period for preliminary taking preliminary measures. That's why it took a swarm nature. Otherwise, every year we get small swarms which are like 100 meters, 200 meters. But this time is 1.5 to 2 kilometers swarm. It's a huge swarm. And of course, government is trying its best to manage it. Okay. So it's of course, another 15 days, this swarm will continue.
So what is the best case and the worst case scenario?
We can't say. Actually, locust management is it involves so many agencies, from aviation, from army, because it's a inter country, like between two countries, these swarms will move. So it includes BSF. Okay, it includes so many agencies, agriculture departments, and on ground because nowadays the environmental issues are also there. You can't spray like previously we used to do. Just go there, spray everything. We can't do that nowadays. Okay, there are so many issues are there. You have to select only the molecules which are safer to birds. So many things people have to do. Okay, but at this point of time, it's serious, especially in case of Jhansi, Madhya Pradesh. It has moved till Madhya Pradesh, Jhansi, the part of UP. Okay, but people are using few safer molecules to control it. And Government of India is also requested Britain to give some helicopters for spraying and all. So I think another 1 or 2 days they may reach.
Okay, so just the last question for the day. I'm also interested in this question. Could you talk about it's both to Shantanu and you, Dr. Shashank. Could you talk about the ladybug decline in our urban area, especially? There was a time when there used to be a lot of ladybugs seen everywhere, but nowadays it just disappeared from, I would say, kids' childhoods.
Ladybug. Shan, you can add, I think.
Yeah, I would say I would really point out the decline of the host plants for ladybird, which are not there. So as for where the larva to grow, they grow on specific leaves. Those plants are native plants which are not being planted anymore.
No.
That is one big reason. And number two is spraying of pesticides and insecticides once again.
Yeah,
that
Shan,
everything.
I will have a small correction here. Actually, ladybird larvae, they feed on grubs. Okay, they feed on the soft-bodied insects. Okay, so there are 2-3 reasons. One is, as Shan told, pesticide use. Even I found many garden people, especially those who do terrace gardening in Delhi or whatever gardening. Even a small insect, they call us, क्या spray करना है? That's how बोलिए क्या spray करना है? They first come up with spray. See, there are so many common sense things you have to understand. You will be having so many kids in your home and around. First of all, don't think about chemicals when you are doing a home gardening or terrace gardening. Try to use a lot of biomolecules like neem oil. Many people, they forgot how to use neem oil. Nowadays, marketing, they get so many combination of neem oil. Actually, neem is such a beautiful molecule which is given to Indians by I know whom. Okay, and the molecule mode of action also is identified by India, and especially from IRI in our lab only. Okay, that's actually we don't know about that, and it's having multiple mode of action. It can control any insect. So for those people who are using they're doing gardening, try to use neem oil or some other traditional methods. You ask your grandma, okay, grandpa, they know so many
Always.
traditional methods. Okay, you can use that. Okay, uh, and of course, Delhi is a very complex ecosystem. Okay, nowadays I don't blame urbanization, because everybody want urbanization. Development and nature doesn't go together. Only few countries where establishments are really happy, they interact with people, they know and they understand people, so it go together. Okay, so it's all individual responsibilities. Host plants is a major concern. Even for a pest, it's a major concern. Then ladybird will come. Okay, so these two reasons, and of course nowadays the peri-urbanization. Many of us we only talk about urbanization. We don't really talk about peri-urbanization. I think most of you are Delhiites. I think I think more like before 10 years, आपको दिल्ली से बाहर जाने के लिए कितना time चाहिए था? Maybe about half an hour, 1 hour. Okay, Abhi Sonipat, even if you complete Sonipat, Delhi will be there. So the Delhi has grown, and the smaller areas, smaller cities, okay, are just joining together with Delhi. So the problem is also there. We are losing a lot of lands, which are agricultural lands, are also the forest patches in smaller areas. Okay, so the peri-urbanization is very, very fast in India rather than urbanization. So that is also one of the reason we are where the natural enemies, especially ladybirds and all, we are here. Actually, in our campus we have a lot of ladybird, because we grow a few flowering plants which attract especially bugs. Okay, especially aphids. So ladybirds, the ladybirds feed on those aphids and they develop.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Somebody.
Sohail, another one. I think somebody asked about fireflies. Okay, so it's the same reason for fireflies also. So actually in Delhi, generally firefly larvae is also carnivorous. Okay, they feed on snails, slugs, some smaller worms. Okay, and they like to stay in marsh areas and also some woody, the rotten woods. How many of we allow some rotten woods nearby our places? Nobody will like to, because we have problem with mosquito. There are so many things are there. Cleanliness. See, when we go for more cleanliness, more we smaller minor natural habitats also we lose. Okay, that always it's a compensation with the health risk we have, and also the natural habitat. So these are the two issues. Okay, especially the habitat loss is major concern for fireflies. Okay, Sohail, I'm taking
Shashank,
too much, I think.
Just one question. I would have ended at that, but this is a very pertinent question.
Yeah.
People are asking that if we use neem oil, do the insects get resistant to it?
Naturally, it is not proven. Okay, see, the advantage with neem oil, there is no see, azadirachtin is a compound which actually it inhibits the feeding. So neem actually scientific name of neem, it comes from that compound, Azadirachta indica something. Okay, so actually there is a complex composition of chemicals in neem, and every chemical will do different inhibiting activity on insect. So insect cannot at a time generate resistance for all these chemicals. Okay, if I am using some pesticide, only one chemical I am using. Okay, so it will understand after 10 generation, 15 generation, that particular population will try to adopt to that and get resistance to that. Okay. But the beauty with neem is it's a composition. It's a lot of molecules are involved in that.
So it can't read it all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good to know. Shantanu, would you like to add something here? I think it was an amazing primer on insects. I loved the photographs and the information, and the question answer session was also very, very enlightening. Would you like to say something in the end, Dr. Shashank, Shantanu?
I would like to thank everybody to attending this session. I would expect and hope that people are now more interested about insects. The problem, as very rightly pointed out, is that we can know about insects by going to different sites or different internet computer programs. Excepting that, we do not have a primer book or a reference book of insects of India. I tried to find out; it is not there. There are a couple of textbooks which will not appeal to us, and that probably is something that we need at least region-wise. Insects of Delhi, maybe if CEC can come up with something like that, that would be very helpful for people.
I think Lakan will come up with Moss of Delhi. I think where is at what
Yeah,
stage it is.
as I said, Lepidopteras are VIP creatures. Everybody is studying moths. Everybody is studying butterflies. I'm talking about non-Lepidoptera insects, the creepy
Shan,
crawlies.
I just want to add this. See, the first group which have taken, which gained a lot of interest is coleopterans. To be frank, like, see, that's why we know a lot of coleopterans. Only butterflies, only butterflies in
studied.
Lepidoptera we know more. More studied insect is coleopterans.
That's also good to know.
Yeah, because butterflies, people like them, they enjoy butterflying. So butterfly, what we call, like, we know properly. See, everybody enjoys when they
There's a
take a
cultural
photo.
attachment.
Yeah, when they take a photo, if identified properly, they enjoy it. Okay, I have done this. But there are few insects which you can't even go up to family, so you get frustrated. Oh, I don't want to take even photo of this. So that happens.
To me, in moths also, I must say.
Yeah, it happens. That's the problem with moths. Yeah, every time we can't really ID with photographs. I'm very poor with photograph ID.
Yeah, and the more we study it, the more data that accumulates. Maybe there'll be more resources for people to, like you said, with butterflies, there are lots of resources, so people, it's easy to identify. Maybe later on we can develop more resources.
Yeah, definitely. So now at least about 1,200 species, according to Moths of India, we can identify up to 1,200 species of moths by photographs. Okay, most of the moths in moths. Yeah, that's 1,000. Yeah, 1,000, more than 1,000 in Moths of India. It's all of them are identified by photographs.
Wow. Anything else would you like to add, Shan, Doctor?
No, not me.
Okay, thank you. We would end the session here. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you, Dr. Shashank. It was
amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have taken a lot of time. Today. Sorry for that. I think I have taken a lot of time. Sorry. Okay.
No.
Well spent.
It all went okay.
Time well spent.
Okay.
Thank you for taking out time. Over to you, Nikhil. Would you like to sign off?
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It was a fantastic session and very enriching about insects. A lot of things I've learned with the session. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and see you.
Nikhil, people want to know where to answer the questions. The question of the day. Can somebody put in that in the chat? That whole thing, Zeiss thing.
It's easier if you just put up the slide up and they take a picture with the mobile phones.
I'll try and get that done. Just a moment.
And Nikhil, they're asking at which Facebook page can they see this live recording?
It's called the Delhi Bird, the Indian Bird Network. Yeah, and it will also be, the recording will also be available tomorrow on delhibirdfoundation.org.
Good to know.
Thank you, Nikhil. So I will leave them.
Yeah, Dr. Shashank, I think you can. Is the slide visible?
Not at.
The small bit is visible.
Yeah. You're going back. I think they want only one slide. Last
Yeah,
slide.
this one. This one they want.
Half of it has come.
Half of yeah.
We can see
It
the
is
prices.
www dot zeis binoculars binoculars India India.com/contest contest.
I hope people got that.
Yeah.
Oh, now we can see it. Oh shit!
What happened?
It went to question of the
Gone.
day.
Yeah, I went there and then I came back.
Okay, yes.
Right.
Now we can see it clearly.
Now people can take a photograph of this if they want to by the mobile phone.
Yeah, and Geeta has also added it in the chat. So thank you, Geeta, for that.
Bye.
Bye, Dr. Shashank. Thank you so much.
Bye. 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 You're welcome.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.